Dear viewers, today I am going to discuss with you about the Sale of Goods Act 1979. Welcome to my presentation. My topic is today the Sale of Goods Act. Sale of Goods Act 1979. This law comes from British law concerned regarding buying and selling of movable goods. Example, suppose I went to the shopping mall to buy an iPhone 6. Thus, Sale of Goods Act 1979 shall apply in relation to the implied terms of buying the product. Now, who is a buyer? According to section 2 and subsection 1, the person who is buying the product right now or who agree to buy the product in future is called a buyer. Example, after visiting the shopping mall, I have bought my desired iPhone. Thus, I am the buyer of it. Now, who is the seller? According to section 2, subsection 3, the person who is selling the product right now or agrees to sell in future. Example, suppose I bought the iPhone from a store and the store is a seller. What is goods? According to section 2 and subsection 7, under the Sale of Goods Act, any kind of movable goods other than actionable claims and money are the goods. Example is shoes, clothes, etc. What is existing goods? According to section 6, subsection 1, these goods which is already in existence. You might see it or you might not, it doesn't matter. Example, to understand the existing goods, it must be understood what a non-existing good means. Suppose a model of iPhone is not existing goods, but all the other models of the iPhone is still in the market. Okay, now future goods. According to section 6, subsection 1, these goods which is not in existence, but after making the contract, the good will be either manufactured or it will be acquired with certainty. Example, I am the seller of Samsung. If buyer and seller agrees to sell Note 3 in future date. Contingent goods. According to section 3, subsection 2, at the time of making the contract, the good is not in existence. Example, suppose I went to a tailor for buying a dress. After giving him advance payment, he agreed to bring that frame where we already have entered into a contract, but the product is not in existence. Okay, now who is the unpaid seller? According to the section 45 and subsection 1, unpaid seller means three things: when the seller has got no payment at all for his sold product. Number 2, seller has got the total payment of his sold product by a negotiable instrument and that has been dishonored. Number 3, the seller has got some payment by cash and got rest of the payment by a negotiable instrument and has been dishonored. Example, I sold my flat to someone at 3 crore taka. However, he didn't pay the money, so I am unpaid seller. Now comes fault. Wrongful act. If I have got more bottles of alcohol than that is mentioned in my license, that means when I bring something which I don't have any license to bring it, that means the wrongful act. Default act. Suppose X gives 10 cartons of apples and I am supposed to get themselves delivered by a van. However, I have failed to send the van. Thus, I fail to fulfill the obligation. Thus, I am a default act. Insolvent. Under the Sale of Goods Act, when a person does not have a single money to repay his debts, then he will be called insolvent. Example, I don't have any money to repay my bank loan. Okay, now comes mercantile agent. In the commercial arena, when a person is working on behalf of another person and representing him is called the mercantile agent. Example, suppose A wants to sell his car to C, but A does not talk with C. B talks with C to sell A's car. Here B is representing A, so he is the mercantile agent. Now comes price. Under the Sale of Goods Act 1979, the word price means money consideration. Example, Mr. X sells his mobile phone by taka 3000. Here the amount or the price is 3000 taka. Okay, now property. Under the Sale of Goods Act 1979, the word property means any kind of movable property but not any special property. Suppose A has a mobile phone and it is a movable property. Now, kinds of contract under the Sale of Goods Act 1979. Basically, we are concerned about two types of contracts. Number one, a contract of sale. Suppose A wants to sell his house to B and B buys the house this moment. A also sells it. Then comes an agreement to sell. A sells his house to B and B buys this house in the future. A also sells in future. Then comes difference between a contract of sale and agreement to sell. The differences are transfer of ownership. Suppose A wants to sell his car to B and B will buy the car and B will get the ownership. Transfer of risk. Kamal sells his company to Salam. Salam is to take care of all things. Okay. Remedial measure. Rahim sell his bicycle to Kalam, but Kalam said that he pay the money after 2 weeks, and at last Kalam does not pay the money. Now Rahim file a case against Kalam for money recovery. On the other hand, Rahim resell his product. Okay, now it comes essential elements of a contract of sale and agreement to sell. First one, whether it is a contract of sale or whether it is an agreement to sell. Now comes the elements. Number one is movable goods. Whether it is contract of sale or agreement to sell, every subject matter of the contract have to be movable goods, such as royalty, growing crops, etc. Number two, movable goods for money. Whether it is a contract or agreement, in exchange of the movable goods, the buyer has to give money to the seller. He cannot give anything else. Okay, now comes two parties. Whether it is contract to sell or agreement to sell, there must be one buyer and one seller. Now comes formation of the contract. X or Y, at the time of making the contract, the buyer and the seller have to tell each other what they are making. Method of forming the contract. X or Y can make a contract by written or orally. Now comes terms of contract. X or Y, at the time of making the contract, the buyer and the seller has to tell each other every term of the contract. Other essential element. X or Y, at the time of making the contract, the buyer and the seller has to declare that they are making the contract regarding a legal subject matter. Follow the rules and regulations. Example, A is selling a CD cassette to B and making a contract. Then he has to declare that they are making the contract and the subject matter is legal. So now the terms of contract. Under the Sale of Goods Act 1979, basically we are concerned about two terms. Number one is condition and number two is warranty. Condition. Conditions are the major term which has the major effect under the contract. If there will be any breach of contract condition, then the injured party will have only one option, and that is to terminate the contract. Condition is the main part of the contract. Types of conditions. There are two types of condition. Number one is express condition and number two is implied condition. Okay, now comes express condition. At the time of making the contract, when the contractive parties expressing the condition, that is called express condition. Suppose Mr. Hassan expresses the condition of the contract. Implied condition, when the conditions has not been expressed by the contractive parties, but in order to regulate a particular situation, the condition either established by the government law or by the custom of the situation. Example, if two persons are in a contract of buying and selling of illegal drugs, then it will be prohibited by the law of the country. Warranty. Warranties are the important term which has the important effect under the contract. Example, it is an important part. Express warranty. At the time of making the contract, when the contractive parties expressing the warranty, that is called express warranty. Example, if Tamim buy a watch from Nafis and Nafis says that he has a warranty, then it is express warranty. Now the implied warranty. When the warranty is not expressed by the parties, but in order to regulate a particular situation, the warranty is either established by the law or the custom of the situation. Implied condition as to title. Under the section of there is one implied condition and two implied warranties are present. Implied condition. At the time of selling the movable goods, the seller is giving the implied condition that he is the owner of the product or he has the right to sell the product. Otherwise, the seller will be in breach of implied condition as to title. Example, Mr. Karim is selling a Nokia phone in Bonani showroom. So, it automatically means that he is the owner of the phone. First, implied warranty. At the time of selling the movable good, the seller is giving the implied warranty that after buying the product, the buyer will enjoy the quiet possession of the product. Example, suppose I am buying a phone which is price is 30,000 taka from a shop. So the seller has to give me the warranty that I will enjoy the quiet possession of the product. Second, implied warranty. At the time of selling the movable good, the seller is giving the implied warranty that after buying the product, nobody will disturb the buyer regarding the ownership of the product. After buying a mobile phone from a shop, nobody can say that it is his or her phone when I buy it. Section 15 of the Sale of Goods Act 1979. Implied conditions as to sale by description. When the buyer is buying the product after having seen the description of the product itself, then later on when he will get the product that has to match with the description. Otherwise, the seller will be in breach of the implied condition as to sell the description. Suppose I bought a mobile phone from ABC shop, only seeing the description of the mobile. I did not see the mobile physically. Later on, I found that the camera resolution is not same as it was written in the description. As I know the mobile has to match with the description, so I can easily catch the seller under this law. Now comes the next rule, Section 16 of the Sale of Goods Act 1979, implied condition as to satisfactory quality or fitness of the product and purpose. At the time of selling the movable goods, the seller is giving the implied condition that the sold product will be a satisfactory quality product. Otherwise, the seller will be being in breach of implied condition as to satisfactory quality. Example is, after buying an i7 laptop from ABC's showroom with 60,000 taka, I see that the processor of the laptop is dual core. Then I think the seller gave me good product. Then I can catch him under this law. Section 17 of the Sale of Goods Act 1979. Implied condition as to sale by sample. After having seen a sample, if the buyer will order a bulk of product, then later on when he will get that bulk of the product that has to correspond with that sample. Otherwise, the seller will be in breach of implied condition as to sell by sample. Example, after seeing a sample of pen drive from ABC shop, I order 500 pieces of pen drive for me. But if they will give me the product which is not corresponding with the sample, then I can catch them under this law. Now comes the doctrine of caveat emptor. According to the doctrine of caveat emptor, it is the duty of the buyer to be careful while purchasing goods of his requirement. Example, at the time of buying a shirt from near Dhaka college or anything else, the buyer has to check the product properly because that product is not 100% okay. Some exceptions are as follows. Where the buyer relies upon the skill and judgment of the seller. Example, if a blind person wants to buy a good sports car, then the seller has to give him a good one because he cannot see anything. Now the doctrine of the caveat emptor, part 2, where by custom an implied condition of fitness is connected to a contract of sale. Example, at the time of buying the fruits, the seller has to give good fruits to buyer, or the buyer can easily catch the seller under this law. Where there is a sale of goods by description, there is an implied condition that the goods are fit to sell or fit for sale. Example, at the time of buying a product, by seeing the description, the buyer instead check the product that is okay or not. Okay, dear viewers, thank you so much for staying with me, and according to my promise, today I have presented in front of you the Sale of Goods Act 1979. Watch my video regularly and subscribe my channel so that I can get motivation to make the new videos every month or every week. If you comment on my videos, I will be motivated more and I will make new videos regularly. Thank you so much.